Alex, I spent 20 minutes this morning looking for my favorite marking gauge. 20 minutes.
Let me guess. It was in your pocket.
No, it was in the refrigerator. I went to get cream for my coffee, got distracted by a loose hinge on the fridge door, started inspecting the wood casing. Let's just say I paid tuition on that lesson in focus.
Well, at least your eggs are precisely measured. Welcome back to the TigerDen podcast, everyone. It is Saturday, February 7th, 2026. We've got a massive daily digest for you today. We're talking about the cordless revolution, why mechanics are moving into the office, and how to actually make money with a CNC without losing your soul.
It's a brave new world out there. We're seeing the 2026 hardware reports coming in. And here's the thing nobody tells you. The brushed motor is basically the floppy disk of the tool world now.
Wait, hold on. Are people really still arguing about brushless? I thought that was settled years ago.
You'd think so, but people are stubborn. But the data doesn't lie. Brushless isn't a premium feature anymore. It's the baseline. If you're buying a tool today and it's got brushes, you're basically buying a paperweight with a cord. Milwaukee just dropped a new line of heavy hitters, cordless demolition hammers. I remember back in the day, if you had to break up a concrete slab, you were tethered to a wall or dragging a generator that sounded like a jet engine. Now, you've got more torque in a battery pack than I used to have in a three-phase industrial setup.
Okay, but what about the weight? I've seen those compact kits. They're getting smaller, sure, but are they actually tough? Or are we just making toys for weekend warriors?
Ask me how I know they're tough. I dropped the new M18 rotary hammer off a 10-foot scaffold last Tuesday. I stopped breathing for a second, picked it up, blew the dust off, and it finished the hole like nothing happened. What they don't put in the manual is that these things are built to be abused.
Speaking of abuse, can we talk about tool organization? You mentioned the Vado Pro Pack Evo system. Every time I see your truck, it looks like a bomb went off in a hardware store. Is this modular stuff actually going to save you?
Listen, organization is just productivity in a fancy suit. The Evo system is interesting because it's grab and go. You don't bring the whole shop into the crawl space. You just rip the specific pouch for the trade you're doing that hour. Nobody warns you about this, but you spend roughly 15% of your life looking for a 10mm socket. If I can get that 15% back, I'm basically immortal.
Or you'll just spend that extra 15% looking for your marking gauge in the fridge.
Touche.
Let's talk about the technician to advisor pipeline. I saw this in the TigerDen blog today. Apparently, mechanics in Canada and across the US are moving into service advisor roles. Is that just people getting tired of having greasy fingernails?
It's more than that. The part they leave out of the YouTube tutorials is that being a great tech is only 50% about the wrench. The other 50% is communication. In 2026, cars are basically rolling iPads. When a customer's car breaks, they don't want a grunt. They want a translator.
But if I'm a shop owner, why do I want my best mechanic sitting behind a desk? I need him under the lift.
Because a technician who becomes an advisor is unstoppable. They can explain the why to a customer. They have the credibility. I've seen guys make the jump and their shop's revenue spikes because the customers finally trust the recommendation. It's a lucrative move, but let's just say I learned the hard way that you have to trade your shop rags for a polo shirt. I'm not sure I'm ready for that much laundry.
You? In a polo? We'd have to edit out the sawdust stains.
Exactly. But for real, if you're a tech with people skills, don't just fix the machine, learn the business. That's where the unstoppable career happens.
All right, let's get into the maker mogul corner. You're telling me that in 2026, the age of AI and space travel, the big money maker is wooden wall clocks?
Don't tell the secret to everyone, Alex.
Tiger, it's a clock. My microwave has a clock. My phone has a clock. Why is everyone buying a circle of wood with hands on it?
It's the organic charm factor. Everything in our lives is digital and plastic. People are starving for something tactile. But here's what the old-timers know, but don't share. Don't make a boring clock. You want high margins? You add what I call the twist factor.
Like smart home integration?
Exactly. Or a unique material inlay. I did a series last month using reclaimed brass from an old distillery. They sold out in 2 hours. The trick is to focus on designs that look like they took a week, but can be batch produced in an afternoon. You're selling the story, not the timekeeping.
Efficiency. I like it. But what about the CNC debate? Is the CNC side hustle dead? I feel like everyone and their grandmother has a shapioko or a long mill in their garage now.
It's not dead. It's just evolved. The days of making live laugh love signs are over. Thank God. Now it's about disaster recovery.
Wait, hold on. Disaster recovery? Like fixing a crashed hard drive with a router?
No, like the two squares board. It's this trend of taking damaged, useless materials, stuff with cracks, knots, or even old bolt holes, and using the CNC to carve precise geometric patches or reclamations. You're taking trash and turning it into a $300 art piece using precision.
So it's less about mass production and more about bespoke restoration?
Exactly. People want a story. This was a piece of a 100-year-old barn that I stabilized and carved with a modern Voronoi pattern. That sells. Making 100 identical coasters? That's for people who hate their free time. Don't ask me how I figured that one out. I still have 3 boxes of Best Dad coasters in the attic from 2022.
I'm taking one of those for my coffee later.
Please do. They're great for leveling wobbly tables too.
Before we wrap up, let's talk shop upgrades. If I've got $50 and a free Saturday, what am I buying to actually make my life easier?
3 things. First, precision bench dogs. Everyone thinks they can square a piece of wood by eye. You can't. Get some solid dogs for your workbench. Second, universal dust ports. I know, it's boring. But a clean shop isn't just about breathing. It's about not slipping on a pile of cedar shavings and turning your table saw into a hospital visit.
Safety first, Tiger. I'm surprised.
I have a scar on my left thumb that says safety is a very close second to actually being able to play guitar. And the third thing, a digital angle finder.
Why? My miter saw has a scale on it.
Your miter saw scale is a lie, Alex. It's a suggestion. What the YouTube tutorials leave out is that a house is never actually square. If you're doing crown molding or a complex furniture joint, you need to know the real angle, not the perfect one. That little digital box is the difference between a seamless joint and a half-inch of wood filler.
Wood filler and paint make me the woodworker I ain't.
Exactly, but it's a lot more satisfying when you don't need it.
So what's the takeaway for the weekend?
Here's the thing I wish someone had told me when I started. You don't need the most expensive shop to make the most expensive projects. You just need to be more curious than you are frustrated. Whether you're moving from the shop floor to the front office, or just trying to get your first CNC project to not look like a pile of toothpicks, just keep moving.
And check the fridge for your tools.
Especially the fridge.
That's it for the TigerDen Daily. Go build something great this weekend.
And stay hungry. We'll see you Monday.